Let's get some more perspective now on what's happening with Russia and Ukraine from two of Canada's former foreign affairs ministers. John Manley was also a former Liberal deputy prime minister. He's now a senior business advisor with Bennett Jones. Peter MacKay was also a former Conservative defense minister, and he's now a strategic advisor for Deloitte and McInnes Cooper. Hi, Mr. MacKay. Hi, Mr. Manley. Good to see you both. Mr. MacKay, I'm going to start with you, and I'll pick up where I left off with the ambassador on the subject of fighter jets and Ukraine's kind of need for this next step. You heard the ambassador say that this is a bit politically and tactically different than, for example, even the tanks. Do you expect this to be a different discussion among allies?
I do, for the reasons that the ambassador alluded to. It's an area that creates greater complexity and greater danger as far as those NATO countries coming into a direct conflict with Russia, which, as you know, triggers Article 5, and everybody is all in. But the Polish have been by far the country that's been most forward-leaning, both in terms of compassionate aid and fleeing Ukrainians, but also in terms of the aid with the military aid, with tanks, with artillery, and a very early commitment to provide these MiG fighter planes, which, Vassy, as you may know, are the same planes that Ukraine has been flying and has a small number of, and it's the same plane that's made in Russia. So there is a possibility that this could happen, but they don't want to be isolated. They want to know that they will have the support of other countries, most notably the United States, and certainly the visit of President Biden this week goes a long way to give that sense of security and support. And they also want to know that if they give these planes up, that they will receive others to replace them, because there is real and justifiable fear that they could be next, that they could very well wind up pulled into this conflict, and that who knows the outcome of what's happening on the ground in Ukraine just yet, that Poland is also at some degree of risk, and they would be closest to the conflict.
Mr. Manley, I think if I had asked the same question of both of you and the three of us were talking a year ago, it would be hard to imagine a world in which we were supplying tanks and the amount of lethal aid that the West is supplying Ukraine, and has kind of the evolution of that position among Ukraine, Canada, and all of our allies. Do you envision a point at which the fighter jet conversation changes too?
Well, you're right. None of us could have foreseen what's happened. And quite honestly, at the end of February last year, I didn't think this conflict would last that long. I thought that the odds were in favor of the Russians really bringing about the collapse of the Ukrainian government. They had overwhelming force. What they didn't have was a plan, and they didn't have trained troops, and they underestimated the determination of the Ukrainians to protect their own territory. And I think all of us underestimated the capacity and the communications ability of President Zelensky, who has been a formidable asset for Ukraine in all of this. None of this was foreseeable. I think the problem here that we're going to deal with, Vassy, is that both sides are actually running out of some of the resources that are necessary. Russia has been able to put its economy essentially on a war footing. They're targeting the production of weaponry. They're being supplied by Iran to a very great extent. China has been on the sidelines, but I think comments at the Munich Security Conference this past week suggest that that may not be a permanent situation if there's no ceasefire. And on the Western side, let's face it, there's only so many planes. Quite apart from planes, there's only so much other equipment. And the U.S. industrial military complex is reluctant to go all out in production without assurances that governments are going to continue buying. And it's not clear that Congress would give that authority if the administration sought it. So both sides are running low on weaponry. Both sides are running low on human resources. There's really no way to resolve this at the present time. There's no off-ramp. There are on-ramps to greater escalation, which is why the N word is getting used. But really, I don't see how we get out of this in the short term.
So Mr. McKay, when you think about the potential for an off-ramp, do you agree with the assessment it's hard to see one? And if so, what are the kind of wider consequences for Canada and our allies?
I definitely agree with John's assessment that there is no end in sight and arguably no end game. And I'm not sure there really ever was. Vladimir Putin has had almost a delusional vision for his plans to recreate the Soviet Union. That was simply never going to happen. And yet, for all of the death and destruction, and it has been significant, tens of thousands dead, hundreds of thousands wounded, trillions of infrastructure damage and environmental degradation and the spillover effects that this has had for both energy and food and environment, all of this has been truly shocking the last year when you take stock of all that has happened. And, to come back to John's reference to nuclear escalation and what Putin has said today about pulling back from the START treaty, I thought it was telling that the former president, former prime minister, Dmitry Medvedev, spoke about a nuclear power losing a conventional war increases the likelihood of a nuclear war. And this, of course, is another startling comment coming from a high-ranking Russian. But it is part, I believe, of the saber-rattling, threatening nature of all of the communication coming out of Russia. And let's not lose sight of what was said today by Putin is very much to a Russian audience. This is meant to have people rally around the flag, to create further false narrative that Russia itself was under attack and is the victim, and somehow the West are to blame for all of this, and that Ukraine is really just a pawn in this global game. But the challenge, as John alluded to, and the challenge for all NATO countries, Western countries, particularly those in the region, is how does this end? And how can we, in any realistic world, see anything but the complete defeat of Russia? And that is to push them right back to the territorial boundaries that were there before not just the invasion, Vassy, but this goes back to the invasion and annexation of Crimea in 2014. And so this is a stalemate that is going to grind on for a significant period of time. And there is many, many more risks as more equipment, more deadly weapons are brought to the front, and more individuals are put in harm's way with no ability, it would appear, on the part of Putin to back off. He's clearly all in and is intent on trying to overrun the entire country of Ukraine, and that will not happen.
Mr. Manley, last word too. I just have 30 seconds left. Just based on what both you and Mr. McKay laid out, how challenging does that become for Canada, for example, in its efforts to, as Joe Biden put it today, stand with Ukraine until the end?
Oh, I think it's quite simple for Canada. We are fully behind NATO. We need NATO as we never did before. Let's remember, we have essentially a border, a very long northern border with Russia. And we take President Biden's lead on that. He is, once again, the U.S. president is, you might say, the leader of the free world. And we're with him 100%. I don't think there's much room for doubt.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much, both of you, for your insights and your analysis tonight, Peter McKay and John Manley.